Welcome to the Bank First Ranger Hour. Super Talk Mississippi 93.7 Spotlight on Northwest Community College. And you can listen to our live stream at supertalknorthms.com. Just click on the link for the Bank First Ranger Hour. Now, here's your host, Gary Darby.
Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program as we talk to you on a Thursday, November the 9th. Today on the Bank First Ranger Hour, we will discuss some things in the fine arts, and then we're going to get into the world of athletics in the program. And then I'll remind you, too, of what's coming up at the Heindel Center for the Performing Arts before we're done, and then set in motion the rest of the day here on Super Talk Radio, what we shall do on tomorrow's program between 9 and 10, and then exits stage right. But on the program today, our first guest coming up at around 9:15 will be Jeff Triplett. Jeff has been on the program before. He is the Director of Fine Arts Instruction, and there are several things happening in the concert world and in the fine arts world at Northwest Community College we shall discuss. We'll see what he wants to bring up to the program coming up in a few minutes. When that conversation is done, Sports Information Director Brian Lentz will join. The women's soccer team, I know you just heard at the top of the hour about the Pearl River men winning the region and moving on to Tucson. Well, the Northwest women have won and will be ranked as the 2 seed in the upcoming women's event. Also there, I think it was around 7 this morning. We'll chat with Brian when the soccer team and Coach Beatty left to go and try and win a national championship in women's soccer. 3 Mississippi teams out of 12 will be competing for that event. So we'll do that. We've got Northwest football playing in the playoffs. Basketball season has started. There's plenty to get into with Brian on the program today. So Jeff Triplett first, Brian Lentz second. Then we'll talk about other things going on at Northwest Community College before we're done. All right, let's take the break and get into it. It is the Bank First Northwest Ranger Hour. All things NWCC coming your way. And next, the Director of Fine Arts Instruction, Jeff Triplett's going to be on with us. We'll finish that discussion and get into all of the sports that are playing. Ranger football, women's soccer, men and women's basketball. Brian Lentz on the second half of the program. It's the Bank First Ranger Hour and Super Talk's home in North Mississippi 93.7.
This hour is everything Northwest. Your connection to Northwest Mississippi Community College and powered by Bank First. Thanks for joining us on the Bank First Ranger Hour. Join the conversation now by texting 662-426-1093.
The Bank First Ranger Hour rolling along on your Thursday. We thank you for being here with us. And coming up in the second portion of the show, Sports Information Director Brian Lentz will join us. All kinds of things happening on the national and state and just getting some season started. We'll talk that with Brian. But now we'll bring back our friend from the Fine Arts Department, Jeff Triplett, who will join us and discuss some things. The Director of Fine Arts Instruction is here now. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Gary. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, sir. And I know 'tis the season, so to speak. Although, Jeff, you know, much with everything, it's always the season in the Fine Arts Department. I get that. But now we're moving into the holidays and we're getting these concerts and things. Brief overview since the last time, if you don't mind, before we get in there. How have things been going in the fine arts portion of the world?
Well, things are going just wonderfully. Thank you. Our art department just finished a really important area high school student art show a couple of weeks back. Our theater department just closed the 2-week run of Swing the Musical, which was a huge success. They had a live onstage orchestra composed almost entirely of our music students, so it was just extra special and just a wonderful production. And then kind of rounding out the semester for us, we have our regular music department concerts. Starting next Tuesday, November 14th, we've got our jazz bands. We have 2 different jazz ensembles. They'll both be playing that night. The same week, on Thursday, November 16th, we have our choirs and our a cappella pop ensemble performing for us. And then we're going to close out our concert season this fall with our Fine Arts Christmas Spectacular, which will be Thursday, November 30th at 7 p.m. And that will feature choirs, bands, some theater skits, and a big surprise at the end. So I hope people are going to turn out and join us for a wonderful night of Christmas music and a big surprise at the end that promises to be something you will have not seen at a Christmas concert before. So we're really pumped about that.
That in the business, my friends, is called a tease, and Mr. Triplett has done a tremendous job of setting that up for you. Let's go to the first event on the 14th and the jazz ensemble, if you don't mind a little bit. What jazz styles, plural, will we have in this upcoming event?
Our jazz bands typically do a mix of, what we would call big band or swing band era music. There's usually a tune or two from each group in that style. They will often include in, some more modern pop and rock tunes and other more kind of what we might call more serious jazz. So it's always and will be, a mix of a lot of different jazz styles across the decades. And
I know as I, read a little bit on the release, there will actually be someone singing alongside the jazz band, which I think is an interesting little twist.
Yes, we have. Our vocal department has really grown in the last few years, and we have a wonderful new vocal teacher, Ms. Lacey Halley. And so we're, have the opportunity to more easily explore those combinations, which just makes sense. I mean, vocal music is a very important part of the jazz world. We have some really, really talented student vocalists. So that's going to be a really nice addition that I think we will be continuing in the future.
And we've talked to the new director of choral activities and things on the campus. Got a great conversation with Alex about a month or so ago. And I know he's probably excited to get kind of his first performance under the belt and put his touch on things in the choral world with this coming up on the 16th.
Absolutely. Alex has done a fantastic job. As my position, geographically speaking, in the building affords me the opportunity to hear what's going on in rehearsals all the time, and it's always nice, even when you're not paying attention, you just kind of hear these things, and he has done just wonderful work with our choirs so far. And so I've gotten bits and pieces of what we're going to be hearing on the 16th, and it's going to be fantastic.
How many times are you standing outside some of the doors in the different places of that building and just listening to what's going on?
Just about daily.
Yeah.
I usually leave all of my doors where I'm at open so I can get a glimpse of things, and of course do often just walk around and listen. So it's a treat.
Tell us about that Christmas Spectacular again.
Okay, so the Christmas Spectacular, we're going to have the music department and the theater department involved. The theater department is going to be doing some Christmas themed skits, and then on the music side, we will have vocal music with our choirs. Two of our different choirs are going to perform. Our pop a cappella ensemble is going to perform. We're going to have a couple of smaller instrumental chamber groups that are actually going to provide some music in the lobby as people come to get situated for the evening. So it'll be music from the time you step in the door. And then again, we have a bit of a surprise at the end, which is going to feature another really important school group.
And Jeff, if you don't mind, what day is that again?
It is Thursday, November 30th at 7 p.m.
Okay. And last message for you on the way out as the director there. What would you like to tell us?
Well, we have something else really exciting going on. Thank you for giving me the chance to share this. One of our many programs we have here, in addition to music performance and music education in the music department, is our Entertainment Industry Studies program. I think we may have spoken about this briefly a year or so ago when I was on your show the first time. The program has really grown now that we're in our new Heindel Center for the Performing Arts. We have our wonderful high-tech, purpose-built from the ground-up recording studio. Well, we got to talking and we thought we need a school record label because we need a way to more formally and officially showcase all of our recording projects. So we ran a contest on Facebook for a couple of months, and picked the winner, and we made that announcement on Facebook. Dr. Heinel and I did with a little video the school put together last week. And so I just wanted to share with everybody that the school's new record label name is Ranger Records. And so we're excited about that. Starting probably next fall, we're going to be doing a rather lengthy and sizable, very complex recording project. So it will be the first release under that label. So we hope to be able to do that release about a year from now.
I'm sitting here just kind of shaking my head back and forth and thinking how amazing it is, the growth and everything from a person that was in that fine arts department as a student and then have worked on that campus and continued to be involved throughout, off and on throughout the years, how amazing things are now and what you have, with the facility, but with all this technology and things, to know that there's now going to be Ranger Records. Jeff, that's tremendous.
It really is, Gary. People that heard the last interview you did with me, you brought up the fact that you and I go way back. We were in the marching band here together, so our connections and our personal history goes so far back. And in the time I've been here, the changes on this campus, both to the campus and new programs across campus, not just in fine arts, it's a tremendous time of growth and opportunity. And I tell people with all seriousness, when we give tours of the building, they're like, what do you think about this place? I'm like, it's Christmas every day around here, and it really is. So we are very fortunate to have the kind of support we have from our board of trustees, from the administration, the public, and it is a great time to be here. It's a great time to be a Ranger.
Well, if there's people listening that want information about fine arts, not necessarily from you, but different things that are going on, is there a way they can get in touch with someone in that building and do so?
Yeah, the fastest way would be to start with the Fine Arts Facebook page. We keep it up to date with all kinds of things, including, of course, our roster of events, but a lot of other things we have going on. We put a lot of information up there that we hope people will enjoy. And outside of that, they can, of course, go to the school website, look at the calendar, and there are lots of contact information, names and numbers on all of our various Facebook posts. So we're pretty easy to get in touch. Thanks
for your time again. I appreciate all the information.
Thank you, Gary. I appreciate the opportunity.
Jeff Triplett, Director of Fine Arts Instruction. Next, we're going to get into the athletic world with Brian Lentz on the Bank First Ranger Hour.
Thanks for listening to the Bank First Ranger Hour, your connection to Northwest Mississippi Community College on Super Talk Mississippi 93.7 and streaming live at supertalknorthms.com. Just click on the link for the Bank First Ranger Hour.
It is the Northwest Ranger Hour, but I do need to give something quickly to our Center Hill Mustang athletic family. And I hope you were aware, because I just became aware, that because of possible weather tomorrow, Neshoba Central moved the playoff game to tonight. It's the only one in the state of Mississippi that I have found at this point. But within our listening area, Center Hill traveling to Neshoba Central in the first round of the Class 6A playoffs tonight at 6 o'clock. So we'll discuss that final score, and we'll have other high school things on tomorrow's program. Now let's get into the world of Northwest Community College athletics with our friend Brian Lentz. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Gary. How are you?
Good. You've been involved in those things involving weather and having to move games and things of that nature. I don't know how I feel about it. I understand if it's severe thunderstorms and things like right at the beginning of the season for Northwest and Gulf Coast, you had to do what you had to do. But we have the one high school football game going. Mother Nature can affect things along the way, can't she?
She sure can, and she has before, certainly, in pretty much every outdoor sport with Northwest at some point or another. I mean,
yeah.
We all know how February typically goes in the Mid-South, and that's when baseball and softball seem to be the most affected with getting those early season games in due to rain, snow, or a combination of the two. So, yeah, Mother Nature is definitely a pretty extreme factor when it comes to those scheduling decisions.
I was a lot of things going on last Thursday night, and when I pulled up Ranger TV, it was 21-7 Northeast, and then boom, Rangers score. Get the ball back within a minute. Boom, tie it up, get it to overtime. And the first things I want to say is, I've known Tyler Springs for a while. Brian, he does a really good job with the play-by-play of Northwest football.
He does. Him and Russell Copeland are a phenomenal team together on our broadcast. We've been so blessed to have them this year. And even last year, Tyler's first year doing it, when he had Gabe Kuhn, who is now the host of the afternoon show on Memphis Sports Talk Radio, and doing well in that gig. So we hated to lose him, but we didn't miss a beat picking up Russell as well. But Tyler, his enthusiasm, even when he's on a solo broadcast, is unmatched. I mean, it's just been a great pickup along the way for both Northwest football and in basketball. Does a lot of things at the University of Memphis as well, especially their women's basketball broadcast. And, he did a great job calling and capturing the emotion of that comeback and the overtime and the two-point conversion that Northeast almost got. But Charles Thomas making that tackle to save the win for the Rangers and put them right here in the playoffs this weekend.
Yep, 10 straight for Northwest, and Rangers got the ball first, scored. Usselton with the extra point. I get you're on the road, and the winner went to the playoffs. You felt you had a good play to call and to get things done defensively. To be over there like Thomas was on an island. I mean, if he doesn't do what he does, game over, Northwest season is over. The discipline and the coaching that obviously went in showed on that play, and then Thomas making the play, and the rest of the team never giving up either when they were down 21-7, just continuing that fight, just shows what Benji Parker and that staff have been able to do for a long time now.
Look, I've told several people, no matter how the season starts or what bumps in the road Northwest hits, and I think it was the caption of our recap video, you can never count Northwest out when it comes to football, and really a lot of sports in general. But that coaching staff, led by Coach Parker, they sent them to the playoffs 10 straight years for a reason, and it's because Northwest, I mean, no matter what the rest of the conference looks like, the rest of the North Division looks like, whatever adversity they hit, they're going to surpass it. They're going to do what it takes and do what's required of them to get into the postseason. And when their backs are to the wall, Northwest is a very dangerous team, and they've proven that time and time again. And last week against Northeast was no exception. You know, being behind for pretty much all the first three quarters of that game and being able to come back and not only force overtime, but to keep Northeast off the board in the fourth quarter. You know, after you said you tuned in when it was 21-7, and that was right after Northwest had cut it to 14-7, and the Rangers didn't back down. They got two straight touchdowns after that, scored in the first overtime. Northeast, of course, battled through and scored on their first possession of overtime, and then they chose to go for two. And if recent history has shown anything when it comes to overtime games in the MACCC, going for two that early it usually doesn't bode well. We saw East Mississippi do that a couple years ago in their playoff game against Hines, and it cost them, and that was there in Scuba. So, I was kind of surprised to see Northeast go for two there, and I don't know what was I'm not in the mind of anybody on the opposing sideline, but regardless of how it turned out, just an all-time classic between those two programs, and one of those games that a lot of people will talk about for a very long time.
Now it's a trip to Wesson. Made several of those trips with some good Co-Lin teams, some really bad Co-Lin teams over time. And I don't know, did we expect, I mean, we've talked about Gulf Coast, we know about Jones, Pearl River throughout time. All of a sudden, Co-Lin creeps through this thing, gets it a three-way tie, wins the tiebreaker, and wins the South. What can you tell us about the Wolves? Did they kind of surprise people, or did we expect this to be something that could happen?
Well, Co-Lin is one of those teams that, they kind of emerge. They're kind of a quiet team down there in the South. And what I mean by that is it's the way you just said it. You know, Gulf Coast and Jones have been in recent history the ones battling for that South Division title. But Co-Lin has always kind of been lurking in the shadows, as well as Hines in recent years. And Co-Lin, I think what really sparked them was that win early in the year against East Mississippi that opened the season. And since then, they've just kind of been on a roll. They find ways to win. They've got some great talent there. I know Coach Parker was quoted by JUCO Weekly previewing that game for this weekend. Colin's just one of those teams that they're gritty, they're tough. They're going to find ways to win. They may not be the flashiest team that you would see in this conference, but they've got that determination, and they're very well coached. Coach Glenn Davis has been there for a while down there at Colin, and he's done a heck of a job. And getting the Wolves back not only to the South Division title, but they're now number 4 in the nation entering this game. Northwest now moving up to number 10. So it's another nationally ranked matchup that could have some further playoff implications beyond the MACCC. So we'll see how this plays out on Saturday.
So with that being said, the other two teams have already played one another. Gulf Coast, East Mississippi, right? Gulf Coast won handily in that matchup, which was also at Scuba. Tell us a little bit and how you might think that one may play out.
Well, EMCC and Gulf Coast, they're those teams that, they started out very strong at the start of the year and hit some speed bumps along the way. Of course, we mentioned East Mississippi losing to Colin early in the season. And as you mentioned, lost 42-17 to Gulf Coast at the end of September. And then Gulf Coast, that was the time where Gulf Coast was rolling, and everybody kind of thought that Gulf Coast would be one of those teams that may be in the upper echelon of the national rankings. And then they hit some speed bumps. They went out and lost to a couple of teams in the South Division, and that kind of created this three-way tie, which how crazy is that you have a team like Jones who can technically claim a co-championship in the South Division, but they don't make the postseason.
Right.
Like, that's just one of the wild, wacky things that we see in JUCO athletics. But concerning this game with EMCC and Gulf Coast, it's going to be one of those knockdown, drag-out brawls. It always is when you play East Mississippi, no matter who you are, and the same rings true for Gulf Coast. And I think that one is really a toss-up. There's something to be said for playing a team twice in the same season. It's hard to beat a team twice in the same season, so East Mississippi has that to look forward to, but at the same time, Gulf Coast is just they're going to come to Scuba ready to play. Coach Wright's going to have them ready, and it's going to be one of those games that'll be premier viewing, that's for sure.
That is the battle of the two teams that beat Northwest this season. Northwest takes on Colin. What time do we kick that game off on Saturday?
Well, Saturday's game with Colin will kick off at 2 p.m. from Stone Stadium in Weston, and we will have that broadcast set up on Ranger TV as usual. We will also have that on Action News 5 Plus for those in this listening market and viewing area. I don't know yet if we'll be on our friends Ellington Broadcasting in the Mississippi Delta. They typically have Delta State that they simulcast on Saturdays. Haven't heard anything from them, but regardless of where you're at anywhere in the world, you can literally watch on Ranger TV by visiting nwccrangers.com/watch. Kickoff at 2. Pregame will begin at 1:30, and it'll be a good game. Brian
Lentz, Sports Information Director at Northwest, on with us. We're going to move him into another sport that some call football, some call soccer. The head coach I would assume Coach Beatty would call it football along the way more than soccer. But what a historic season for the Northwest women's soccer team, Brian. They have been amazing all year long.
They have, and I feel like the past 3 years we've been talking about how historic of a season that it's been for the women's soccer team, and it's been true. Take you back to 2 years ago, they won 15 matches and fell in the Region 23 tournament semifinals. But at the time, the 15 wins were the most in a single season by the Lady Rangers. They matched that win total last year and were able to get an at-large bid into the national tournament, in which they made the semifinals, losing to Phoenix College out there in Tucson, their first national tournament bid ever. And then this year, they just totally surpassed it. 20-1 is their record this season, and they finally win the Region 23 title and then get an automatic bid to Tucson. So back-to-back seasons that they get to go to the national tournament after never making it in the program's history before. Where they are now, they are 112 goals scored on the season, which is tied for third in the nation. And the 4 goals that they've given up all year long is the second least amount allowed by any team. There's one team that's not in the national tournament that is allowed less than that. But think about that for a second.
That's crazy.
You outscore your opponents 112-4. Like, that's, I feel like regardless of how good you are in soccer, that's almost unheard of.
Well, and Brian Jones scored 3 of those in one game. Right?
You're right. You're exactly right. And I'm sure that's a game that Coach Beatty and his staff would like to forget. But it all worked out in the end in getting that region title. And they're actually paired with Jones on this side of the bracket. So the way it plays out, for those who are unaware, soccer, and when you get to the national tournament, is divided into 4 3-team pools. It's kind of like an international World Cup style play that you get there. And the winner of these pools, because you're guaranteed 2 matches, the winner of each of these 4 pools will advance to the semifinals. So what Northwest has coming up, starting on Sunday, actually, is they will play Rock Valley College out of Illinois. That's going to be at 1:30 p.m. Central Time. And then on Tuesday, they will face Johnson County, Kansas at 1:30 p.m. Central Time. Both of those will be on the NJCAA network. We have a link to that on our website. It will be a pay-per-view broadcast, so you probably will have to bring out the wallet for I think they do offer a tournament pass, though. So it's not usually a whole lot of money, but that's where, when you get to the national stage, that's where you start having to pay for the views on there. But should Northwest win this pool that they have, Jones College is in Pool D, and they have a couple of teams as well. And, of course, Holmes Community College, don't forget about them. They also, the same 3 teams from Mississippi that made the semifinals last year are all back out there in Arizona once again. And I think that speaks to the testament of how tough the MACCC has become as a women's soccer conference.
Brian, let's get into some basketball. We had Coach Laterrell Williams on with us last week. His program off to a good beginning.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Getting those 2 wins. And I got to speak about the crowd on Monday night. I think I mentioned this in the men's basketball recap, but for those who are recent followers to Northwest Athletics, you've seen in the past couple of years where the women's and men's teams have been split. You've seen the women, if they're at home, the men are on the road, and vice versa. Well, that was a COVID scheduling thing that carried over into last year. But before then, Gary, you probably remember these as well. You used to play those basketball doubleheaders.
Yeah.
And you would have the women first, the men second, and we're finally back to that this season. And I think it's made a big difference for our crowd. We had our first one Monday against Dyersburg State, and, of course, Coach Williams and his team pulled out a great victory against Dyersburg State. And then the men's game was just an absolute dunk fest. And I know we were probably going to transition into the men's in a moment, but it was just a really good atmosphere. Our home crowd was in it from the start. People were on their feet. They had the little thunder sticks going behind the visiting basket. The mascot, Danger, was getting the crowd hyped. It was probably the loudest I've heard Howard Coliseum in about 5 or 6 years. So I'm hoping the home crowd will be able to carry that over into other games we have this season. The men will play tonight at 6 against Arkansas State Mid-South on Ranger TV. Though if you can come to Howard Coliseum, we'd certainly love to have you there. And it is only one game today, but you'll see a lot more of those women's and men's basketball doubleheaders as we go throughout the season. And, I mean, the crowd, the energy, when Howard Coliseum is packed and you've got the energy going, it's one of the toughest places to play in the MACCC, and I hope we can continue that as we go through this season. Coach
Oakley and the guys 1-2 lost a close one, 92-88 to National Park College, lost to this Arkansas State Mid-South team 72-61 on the 4th of this month. Got the Dyersburg State win 95-83 on Monday. As Brian just said, 6 o'clock tonight against Arkansas State Mid-South at Howard Coliseum. The women 2-0. They'll be traveling to Arkansas State Mid-South in West Memphis, Arkansas for the Greyhound Classic tomorrow at 7 and Saturday at 2. Have you cloned yourself to be at all of these events?
Oh Lord, if I had, I don't think I'd be working at Northwest because I'd be a very rich man.
That's
and
true.
Probably could retire somewhere in Jamaica, along the way. But no, it's still going to be a good crowd. I don't know if the Saturday game will be streamed at ASU Mid-South since we're not playing the Greyhounds on Saturday. But we will still have, of course, full recap and stats and everything on NWCCRangers.com. In fact, you can go look at the stats from the first couple of games for women's and men's basketball as well. And if you just want to take a look at football stats or check my numbers on women's soccer to see it for yourself with those stats, those are all online as well, too.
You're the best, my friend. Enjoy what is going to be a busy, again, weekend for you and Mr. Brian Oakley. Y'all have some fun with it.
All right. Appreciate it, Gary.
Thank you. Brian Lentz with us from the Sports Information Department, the leader there. All kinds of things happening. Basketball for the men tonight in Senatobia. The women Friday, and they're in West Memphis, Arkansas. Soccer for the women out on the way to Tucson for the national tournament. And then you've got football on Saturday down in Wesson against Colin. And the first round of the state football playoffs. Winner will advance to get the winner of Gulf Coast East Mississippi. And we'll update you on all of those things Friday as well as we take a break, come back, wrap up this Ranger Hour, and get you set up for tomorrow's program. Hold on.
We're talking Rangers this hour. Thanks for joining us for the Bank First Ranger Hour. It's a special conversation about Northwest Community College. There's a campus near you, and you can join the conversation by texting to 662-426-1093.
Any and every show, that text message line is open. 426-1093 is how you can do it. You can follow me on Twitter at GDarb65 and the Facebook page, North Mississippi Spotlight with Gary Darby. Thank you to our two guests for the day. Jeff Triplett, Director of Fine Arts Instruction, discussing the jazz band concert, which comes up on the 14th. We have choirs that will be singing on the 16th, the big December event coming up as well, and all kinds of things happening in the Heindel Center. You can go to northwestms.edu, where you can see the releases and the stories of all the things and those concerts we're discussing, or heindelcenter.org for what's still to go in the month of November and December at the Heindel Center for the Performing Arts. So all of those things happening. And then Brian Lentz, our Sports Information Director, who kind enough to join us to talk about all of those things in the sports world, where you can follow, as he said, at NWCCRangers.com. That's going to wrap things up for old GDARP. We'll come back a little bit after 9:06 in the a.m. tomorrow with the Roberts Wilson, PA High School Sports Hour. Thanks to Bank First for helping make this go around, and Northwest Community College for being so kind, giving us all of the guests and the topics to discuss every Thursday. Enjoy. So long.